and we're going to pick apart as a group what they may have done right or what they may have done wrong, and anyone who wants to make a suggestion can. Glenn Garber is here with us tonight, another wonderful, wonderful criminal lawyer. So if you have any input in terms of these little fact patterns, let us know. But
I think just to touch on the airport issue real quick, because we did mention that, keep in mind that because of the executive orders in the current administration, there is a stronger presence of immigration enforcement at airports, and that is something that is affecting U.S. citizens. Okay, I was part of the relief effort at JFK when the travel ban was first issued. I remember. And it was terrifying what I saw, because I remember a guy who I believe was either a naturalized U.S. citizen or a dual citizen, Egyptian and U.S. So not even one of the 7 countries. He was detained for more than 6 hours.
Jesus.
Okay? And so if you are traveling with anything, I mean, honestly, next time I travel, I'm considered just like wiping my phone clean, because they can also go through your entire phone. They can take your passwords. They can detain you until you give it to them, even if you're a U.S. citizen. So keep that in mind as you travel, because times are extremely dangerous at airports for anyone who might be doing something you might want to hide from the government.
And probable cause
Yep.
is not involved at all in these
Yeah.
searches. No
Correct.
probable cause at all.
So at just so you know, at airports and near the border, your rights as citizens under the Constitution are almost completely suspended. They're very, very limited. So anything that we're talking about of there needing to be probable cause, that you do have a defense, that you even have a right to an attorney, is not necessarily true wherever they say is a port of entry and where immigration has a presence. And it's all because the Supreme Court has constantly deferred to the executive branch, saying that the executive branch has a great amount of latitude for national security purposes and being able to screen and vet everyone, including citizens, at every single port of entry.
this is a border exception to the warrant clause, they call, right? Glenn, you had a question?
Well, I'm ignorant about it. Is it unfettered? So if you're traveling by plane, they have unfettered discretion to search anybody?
Arguably not completely unfettered, but I don't think it's been litigated enough to figure out what the exceptions would be, at least for citizens. Because I would imagine that some rights that citizens have would be upheld in court. But I think realistically, CBP can detain you for several hours as a citizen if you choose to not give them what they want.
But what if you say, I'm going to vacate the airport and I'm not going to travel? Does
That's
that then
Oh,
obviate?
then I think you'd be fine.
So if they want to search your phone, or they want to do something intrusive, you can say, you know what? I'm out of here. And then once you separate yourself from that environment, they lose their right to.
May not be so easy, though.
Well, practically speaking.
David Holland, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, well, I dealt with this over the weekend, and it was a guy that was flying domestically and was doing a transfer in Detroit, and was detained at that point, being questioned, are you Muslim? And he was American citizen, American born, and was put through 4 hours of detention, during the course of which, as an internal investigation, but it was within the range of the border ostensibly, that the rules change. And I've been around the industry a little bit. For those of you that travel overseas, go to Amsterdam, things like that, if you go to a grow room and you take pictures of them and they download onto your phone or your computer, the government not only is allowed to look at your thing, they will GPS and pull out the coordinates from where it was, and now you're used as a source of information for later warrants and investigations.
And indeed,
So
this
you need
is
to be a little
the
bit
result
careful.
of you entering the United States without any probable cause, without any reasonable suspicion, and your phone being looked through. When I travel to places like Colombia, right, I bring a clean phone with me, and I don't have stuff on my phone. And remember this, and I think that David made this point to me a couple months ago, there are now warrant clauses in the United States, warrant applications, that allow an agent to take your finger and put it on your phone, so as to bypass this whole Apple passcode conundrum. And this is what we're seeing more often. So bottom line is this: when you travel across an international border, you can be searched in an almost unfettered way. And whatever argument you're going to make is going to be after the fact, and you're going to be arguing about rational relation or some constitutional test when you've already been criminalized and you're in trouble. So when you cross an international border, be prepared to have an invasive search that could even include the passcodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that there are some excellent webinars and trainings out there as to how to travel safely, because a huge concern is that they also target attorneys, right, or other folks who have protected information. There was a news article that went around about a guy who contracts with NASA, right, and sensitive government information was revealed at a CBP detention, even though he was a citizen as well. So if you do travel with sensitive information, or you just want to know how to better protect your technology, definitely look out for webinars and trainings on this. I think the National Lawyers Guild is going to be having a training on that soon.
So we've talked now about Fourth Amendment, your right to be free from what? Unreasonable searches. And the Fifth Amendment, which is your right to what?
Not being bound.
That's good, remain silent, perfect. Now, before we go to a couple examples, anyone know what the Sixth Amendment is? All these things derive from that thing called the Bill of Rights, right? 1789, first 10 amendments. Sixth Amendment, are going to call on someone.
You don't have to put up a soldier in your house?
Oh, that's a good one, though. That's the paramilitaries, right? David Holland, Glenn.
Right to an attorney.
Right to an
right,
attorney.
right.
And Joanne, when does your right to an attorney kick in?
Immediately.
Immediately meaning what? Like now?
Yeah, I want an attorney.
What, like when the policeman says, "Give me your license"? When does one have the right to counsel?
When I'm charged with a crime.
Correct. When you're charged with a crime. At your initial appearance, am I correct about this?
But can you assert your right to counsel during the pre-arrest stage?
Absolutely, as you should, and then all questioning will stop. But technically, you're not really provided a lawyer until the time of your initial appearance in court, say. And this provides a big window of time for the police to gather evidence, if you allow them to, in the form of statements and consent searches and everything else. So once you are, say, detained and in a pickle, and you don't feel like making statements and you've said that, the next magic phrase that we've already gone over is, "I want a lawyer," right? And then don't fall for any, follow-up questioning that gets you off the track of, "I want a lawyer," right? That's the mantra at that point. I'm not making statements, I want a lawyer, okay? That's what you do to stay safe. Even if you don't have some counsel already, you don't have your Glenn's card in your wallet or David's, right, or anyone else's or mine, you want a lawyer. It's better for your lawyer to negotiate you out of trouble than for you to try to do this yourself. Right, Joanne? Do you remember suspects trying to negotiate themselves out of trouble with you?
I was undercover, so I didn't do it. My backup team was there. But if I am being, if I'm in custody and I'm being questioned, I'm being interrogated, it's very foolish of me to answer the questions. I really ought to tell the police officer, I want an attorney. I don't want to answer any questions. And if the officer says to me, well, all right, sure, we'll get you a lawyer, but it would be a lot easier if we just went through a few questions. I just have a few things to ask you. I don't want to hear that. I want a lawyer. And either they will provide me with an attorney or they will stop the questioning. But once I say I want a lawyer, and sometimes people think I can get over. This seems like a nice guy. He doesn't really want to hurt me. He said he didn't want to hurt me. He said he didn't want me to go to jail or go to prison. He's on my side. He's not on my side. He's not on my side at all. And it would be stupid, just stupid, to continue talking to the police officer, the detective, if I'm in trouble. They're not stupid by, if I did something and they know it, I'm the stupid one to begin with, by talking to them, by thinking that I can talk my way out of it. I can't. That's crazy. They have discretion, but once I'm in custody, once they're talking to me about that crime, that incident, they're not gonna let me go. So it would be very, very foolish to answer any questions. As I said before, if they stop me in the car and the baby, they're looking for the baby and I don't have anything else in the car and I don't have the baby, I'll let them look in the car. But when it comes to questioning, that's something else. They have an idea what I know. And it would be very, very foolish of me to continue talking to them. I want a lawyer. So either they will provide the lawyer, or if that's in a serious case, in a very serious case, a homicide, they probably will wait and probably will call legal aid and get a lawyer for me. Because I have responded on situations like that. But generally, questioning should stop.
By the way, the things that we've been talking about are not really just about marijuana cases, right? You can't compartmentalize constitutional rights that way. These are rights you have whether you've got marijuana in your pocket or not. These are rights you have whether you've committed a crime or not. And they're very important for you to be able to understand and have the strength to assert when necessary. Because the other option is perhaps being in prison for a long time. And I've represented people, I can tell you right now, we all can. It's easier for us to win your case if you've shut up and haven't consented to the search, right? The more you talk and the more you consent, the harder it becomes. All these things we're talking about are also applicable to things like document production searches, or if you own a business and people are looking for, large amounts of your electronic materials. You don't necessarily, even if subpoenaed, have to give everything over if you have a Fifth Amendment interest. And the more complex this stuff becomes, the more removed from I'm on the street and they smell marijuana, and the more it becomes like a federal case, shall we say, the more important it is that you have your lawyer up front bargaining for you or defending you or representing you, whatever it's going to be. You should never try to do that yourself. Lorilei.
And I would also add, to what Joanne was saying about the right to attorney, there's a few issues. One is that at least if you're being detained or stopped for immigration purposes, you do not necessarily have the right to an attorney. You can get an attorney at your own cost, but good luck finding one on short notice like that. They will not, there's no legal aid that they can call to try to appoint you an attorney. The other thing is also, if you're detained at an airport, right? So they can't detain you if you're trying to get into the airport. It's almost always when you're already trapped inside the airport because you're landing or you're switching flights or something like that. You don't necessarily have the right to an attorney as well. Now, there is some litigation going on right now. Citizens arguably might have the right to an attorney, and legal permanent residents might possibly have a right to an attorney, but that is not absolutely settled yet in case law. And the other thing too is that if you are, arrested and detained for criminal purposes, not only do you have a right to an attorney, but also that attorney has a duty to inform you of any immigration consequences to anything that might happen in your criminal case. Because what people don't understand is the huge impact small things. So like under the New York penal law, marijuana possession, you get community service, counts as a violation, not technically a crime under the law, at least in New York State. Still going to be a problem for you if you're an immigrant, even if you're a green card holder and have a more permanent status. If you have more than one marijuana violation, even if all you had to do was pay a fine, deportation, okay? And you might not have a defense against removal. The other kicker, one or more turnstile jumping convictions can also result in deportation, even if you already have a green card. So I say that because not only do you have the right to be informed of immigration consequences, but perhaps even maybe get multiple opinions because the consequences are so incredibly serious. And I have a client that I inherited. He submitted a citizenship application. He had 3 marijuana violations. The application was denied. He was placed in removal proceedings. Not only was he at risk of removal, but I literally had no way to defend his case. It was heartbreaking for me. Luckily, we got a pro bono criminal defense attorney to vacate 2 of the convictions, so now we're safe because now he only has 1 on his record. But the other thing too is that depending on what kind of crimes you have on your record, you could be subject to mandatory detention. This is not something that we hear about normally because it doesn't happen in criminal law. You can't be subject to prolonged indefinite detention under our criminal rules. But for immigration purposes, depending on what is on your record, you can be subject to mandatory detention, which means you can be detained for years and years and years while you fight out your immigration case with no right to a bond. So we're talking about very serious consequences.
Like what?
Like 2 marijuana convictions, detained with no right to a bond. 2 turnstile jumping, detained, no right to a bond. And that's assuming the government wants to detain you. Luckily, the government didn't go after my client to actually pick him up and detain him. But if they had, you know, I think this case happened sometime in like June 2015. We still haven't had our first hearing date in immigration court. So he could still be, you know, detained for all I know. People languish in immigration detention for years and years and years and years.
There are, by the way, people in our country in these jails tucked into these little hamlets in these states, and the whole town runs on revenue from the jail. You drive by it on the highway, you don't even know it's a jail. People get forgotten about, right? And then their loved ones don't visit, they lose loved ones. All of these arrests affect families, right? They affect the defendant, they affect everyone around them. How many people in this room who've been stopped by the police have been stopped more than once? Raise your hands high. How about more than twice? Obviously twice. More than 3 times. 5 times? Anyone been stopped like 8 times by the cops? Right. But we got between 5 and 8. Let me ask you, how do you feel? It upset you? Must make you upset, right?
I'm anxious
Mad?
when I get pulled over.
Angry, right? You get angry and mad. Anyone else get really mad? I'm saying this to you now in this room because here's, I think, our collective counsel. When you're in that moment, you can't allow your judgment to be clouded by anger. It's about common sense. It's about trying to get out of that encounter without getting arrested, right? Without getting so angry that you get tased or beaten or killed, right? And we see it all the time. Look, we live in about the most dangerous time that I can remember, but I fear that it's simply because we all have telephones on our cameras now, and the truth is just being exposed, right? So the message from me to you is this. I remember as a young lawyer getting a tongue lashing from an older lawyer named Michael Kennedy, who David knows very well, because I went down to a Key West normal function, and he was wondering how I had pot with me, right? And I never, as I think I said before, I never flew with marijuana again. Right? And the lecture I got was a really valuable one to me as a young lawyer, and I say it to all of you, this is where it comes from, right? Don't make yourselves vulnerable. All of you here, I'm looking at Jacob, I'm looking at Nelson, I'm looking at Kristen. You guys have voices that are going to be heard far and wide and go well beyond the walls of this law firm, right? For many, many years. And people need you, and they're relying upon you to be that voice, Zach, okay? So you can't do things that make you vulnerable. I think I was saying to someone in the room that the more people know you as an advocate in this field, the less pot you can smoke, right? Because then you got to talk to people, you got to respond to them, you've got to be on point, right? You've got to be a standard bearer of a sort. And so now you're all here, you paid, I don't know, $15, $25, whatever it is. You showed enough of an interest, and I've seen enough of you repeatedly, that if this is your thing, don't make yourself vulnerable. Be the voice that we deserve to have heard, right? Change these laws, protect yourselves, protect this whole community. You guys want to hear a little story here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's a good one. While residing in Florida in 2006, a couple of friends and I were hotboxing in a car on private property. The cops arrived but proceeded to the house next door. My friends and I continued smoking our weed. We felt safe due to the fact that the